jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
And we're back for another exclusive. Erica Wright and I conquered the Hell House LLC Shudder trilogy. Boom. Done. And follows a Halloween type haunted house that for generations keeps leaving people mysteriously. They'd keep disappearing in this haunted house, but it's not just any haunted house. It really is a altogether different found footage installment, which just basically just adds to the subgenre by allowing multiple times when just you're unsure if someone's still filming or losing their shit and having to shake the camera, but in a way where you can see everything. It's just a altogether just down to earth, filmed like a documentary. It's very gripping horror mystery. Erica, what's your impressions on this?
So I recently revisited the entire trilogy on Shudder, and
Thank you.
you can tell that this is not a big budget movie.
No.
Although I'm not a big fan of the found footage style of filmmaking, it
Me
is
neither.
a way to get past the limitations of a low budget if you can pull the scares off properly, which these movies do pretty well, I think. Just very simple things like someone turns the camera, and then they turn back and the head of one of the supposedly inanimate props has moved.
Yes.
Or there's suddenly someone standing in the hallway that had just been completely empty. There's a lot of very simple but effective scares like that. And I do like how they've tied this story together over the course of 3 movies that show this repeated curse that these dumbass people keep going to this haunted house knowing that a lot of people have died there in the past, and they keep repeating the same mistake. And in part 2, they start fleshing out the mythos more and explaining why people are lured into the house, and why their ego or their curiosity overrides their common sense. So I do like that element of it. On the downside, maybe it's just me, but I feel like there's a pretty big cast of characters in the whole trilogy, and I feel like a lot of them are interchangeable. Even after watching this whole series again, most of the time I don't remember the character names.
That's pretty much my general thoughts. It's the anti-found footage, if you will. If you like that, that's fine. But this movie really does go the extra mile to just kind of make it look like an actual documentary saying he was never found again.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try?
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new podcast cure-all, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
as needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Hey, I heard you like movies.
I heard you like to hustle.
I heard you like podcasts.
Well, guess what?
There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle.
Damn right.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us.
But do we actually talk about the movie?
Most of the time. Tangents galore.
Yes.
So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We might talk about video games,
Music.
Yeah, that's the big one, music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there.
Yes.
Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ.
Yeah, yes.
I am the master storyteller
Yes.
of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you could think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers,
Yes.
the Google Play,
Yes.
Apple Podcasts,
What else?
Podbean,
What else?
Podcast Addict,
Goddamn.
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ.
Ah.
We gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair to say
Ah. Yeah.
all that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Yeah. don't run the listeners away, PJ.
I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And while Witch didn't make it to the top of the world, he did make the Gangs of Hollywood podcast. So join the gang and enjoy a movie review podcast about movie gangs, gangsters, mobsters, and the mayhem they cause. You can find GOH Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GOH Pod at www.gohpod.com, as well as your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, say hello to your little friend for me.
If you take two old punk rockers who are past their prime, put them in front of a movie screen, and give them a podcast, what do you get? Cinema Punks. Cinepunks. It's the mixtape of movies.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How
gonna be
did
a
you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. Whether one last plot holes or gratuitous movies, it's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy at eilfm.podbean.com.
We now continue with our program.
I know some people find that freaky enough, and others will be like, "Yeah, well, okay, whatever." But I really got to give this extra points for just bothering to just actually just more or less just have there be some mild humor, then have there be some other stuff, and it really does pay off for me, I think, and I think even the viewers that have seen it, just because. Especially part one, just because, you know, all the budget pretty much went to the digital camera, and the rest was, you know, just all, just the transitions and the Foley. The sound is really good. I didn't hear anything that felt like Maverick Home Entertainment or Trauma level.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the production values for it being a found footage film were very good. And also the location itself was great for this type of movie. I have to admit, I have a hard time picturing that old house being a hotel of any kind. It just seems so run down and like, but architecture.
They didn't show enough of it. I don't think so. I think that's why they got away with it. But like you say, yeah, it's if you look at the establishing shot, it's like, okay, I'm gonna just swallow this.
Yeah, and for this type of movie, even though I suppose it could be some really quaint, you know, almost Victorian era hotel or type place, the fact that it's this kind of labyrinthine setup in this house with these very narrow hallways and all these blind turns. The way that house is designed does help them pull some scares off really well, because you can't see far enough ahead and you don't know what's around the next corner. So it works in its favor in that sense.
Fun fact, that was actually the hardest thing to do, according to the interview with the director. Find a place that merited it. His interviews are very cool. They're with people like Ghastly Grinning websites, and that's the name. And he would keep saying to people every day on set, subtlety is everything, less is more. And he said that about the clown statue that kept moving. And
oh yeah, those clowns were just freaky ass things, weren't they?
Yeah, I'm not even technically afraid of clowns, but yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have them in a horror movie, have them merit something.
Yeah, like in the basement scenes where they've got like 3 or 4 clowns like just leaning against the wall, and like someone films them and they're all facing one way, and then they pan the camera back toward them, and one of them is now facing the camera. Like that's like super simple, but it is freaky as hell. I like that kind of scare where it's like, I think that was like positioned differently the last time I looked. Just that simple stuff is very effective.
That's very true. I mean, they went all out. He even joked that it was going to be a trilogy until it's like, okay, no, we're actually going to have to do that. So, I think more or less, I think it helped that they were just very dedicated to just getting a lot of just in the moment kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I say that a lot, but when I say that, I really do mean it, because I mean, when you're spending time on watching a movie and you want to understand why people like what they like, you do want you really just need to find a reason to just kind of keep watching. So, and I feel like these movies really do not drag, and they're all the better for it. It also helps that, yes, they set it up and you're like, okay, this sounds familiar, and at the same time, I mean, you also never really feel like you have to root for everybody's comeuppance and all that. It's like, okay, they don't have their shit together, but I want to see how it all goes downhill, because they're really, it's not doing just bottom of the barrel stuff like, I hear something, no, they're not even daring to sink that far.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Now, for the purposes of this interview, guys, we are going to kind of just review them all together, but I'll make it clear. Part one is basically, they've had this thing. It's been like 30 plus years since they last heard about it. So, people check it out. And it jumps right into it. It doesn't ever take its sweet time or anything. And it never dares to even God, I cannot speak today. It never bothers to even dare to lose your attention. Like there's just always getting creepier and creepier. It might be a little long, but compared to most movies, like it really makes use of every minute to just kind of build the tone in the first 5 minutes, and then have the rest speak for itself. And yeah, I can't tell all the characters necessarily apart, but it's not a bad thing here, because basically it just allows us to concentrate on all the other details that stand out really well. And they're all just part of one voice. They're all just victims at the end of the day. But
yeah, that's what I think too. I agree with that completely. Like, it's each individual's character's backstory is not all that important. Neither is their personality. It's more about the particular history of that hotel, and like why it is the way it is that matters, not so much the individual tragedies that happen there.
Yeah. And it really did pay off that they bothered to just more or less just allow just everyone to sound differently, have them do some funny stuff in between. That's kind of fascinating and amusing. It's like, okay, perfect. That this plays into also kind of fans of mockumentaries, even though this isn't a mockumentary.
Yeah.
And it also just allows us to just kind of say, okay, I want to see shit hit the fan now. Okay. I'm not bored. It's also not schlocky gore only. It really, I can't even really think of any bloody moments. It's just kind of
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember any real on-screen gore with it. It's pretty much implied. Yeah, like maybe like in the third film, for instance, you see a splash of blood on a white wall that's draped in cloth.
Yeah.
But really,
That's it.
Yeah, there's very little blood in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So the first film's pretty much just straight up, this house is haunted, and the people who go into the house get fucked up.
Say it nicely, everybody.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I should have asked you bleep out words like that.
No, I'm just joking. I'm just saying.
Okay.
That's all they got coming to them.
Okay, yeah. So, but I mean, there's no explanation really in the first film as to why the place is haunted, why people who spend too much time there end up dead, especially if they're in the basement. And then
I gotta hand it to them because
yeah.
they did do it in a way where it got my attention, and I didn't feel like okay, not feeling it. It's like they were doing it in just a way where it's like okay, this is going somewhere. I don't know where it's going, but I also know that this is hardly just someone who just turned on their parents' phone or camera and somehow made a movie by miracle. And it's like, okay, no.
Yeah, right.
Some this is gonna go somewhere. I just don't know where yet. And
so what do you think of the mythos that is kind of fleshed out more in part 2 and then even more so in part 3?
Yeah, part 2 and these are where everyone's pretty mixed on these. Part 2 kind of felt very complimentary. The video wasn't as pleasant to look at, but it wasn't grainy. It was just very overexposed, but it kind of got away with it because of the newscasting segments. And
yeah, morning mysteries thing. Although I thought, like, I guess it was maybe the lighting and the green screen contrasted with the backdrop they put over the green screen. But I
think that's totally it. Yeah.
I thought the female host of that morning mystery show looked very sickly, and I seriously, like, first time I watched it, I thought the twist was going to be that she was a ghost or she was undead or something, because she looked fucking sickly. that lighting gave her such a sallow complexion, and then the makeup they did didn't do particular favors with that light.
Yeah, those actors weren't 100%, but I mean, they were just there to pretty much just get it done, and I just bought it only because of the dialogue they were saying, rather than, this person would never, even in this day and age, host a news. And it pretty much just gets away with it just because it's an indie film.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not meant to be an anti-indie statement in any way, shape, or form, guys. I'm just saying you expect less.
Yeah.
And these were each filmed, I believe, for at least $2 million each, maybe 10,000. But
so that's like
let me see.
That's like probably about 100 times more than what my friend Andrei Iskanov makes.
Okay.
Or his budget for his films. So
I mean, give or take, maybe 10,000. I don't know. 10K.
He's doing well if he has a 10K budget for stuff.
I'm trying to figure out how to make a movie for 5K right now. So I mean,
yeah,
it can be done. I won't say who, because that's confidential info. Who told me to film their movie for that? But
yeah, it can be done. I think it is a lot about creativity and making the most of what's around you. And I don't want to get off topic by talking about his films, but it is possible to shoot a historical epic film using mostly your bed and your kitchen.
Your parents
cook.
cook.
It looked like it was shot on your bed or in your kitchen.
Exactly. Have your parents cook, and the rest is history. More or less, it is a team effort. I really do think all the actors play well off each other, and to make it even better, just you welcome just the music. I talk about music a lot on here because I do feel it is key. Even if it doesn't break a movie, it can at least cost it. It's taken it,
Yeah.
Out of place, cheesy sounding. I hope that someday that they release it because the soundtrack, because I think it would probably do some decent business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not much, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I thought it definitely contributed to the atmosphere. I have to admit, I did like the mythos part of it that you learn more about in part 2. That it's literally about sucking people into the literal gate to hell, and like that's kind of wild, and that they have to send someone back to lure more people into the house. I kind of like that actually.
Yeah, I didn't really remember as much about part 2, but I do remember that a little bit of that. And it was like, okay, so still, that took some thought.
And
Sometimes
yeah,
that's more important than even the execution. But I mean, yeah. So pretty much all the budget went to just shoot, have enough time to rewrite, let's get it done. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I don't think it's a patch or anything on the part 1, but I mean, it was complimentary. It was like, okay, here's what people liked about this, so let's, we can't do better. Even we don't know what made it that good. We just we hit our mark, and I think that says a lot because everyone does like to say, just do what you did before, and it's like, well, what exactly? So,
right. If only it were that obvious.
Yeah.
And really, does someone want to see exactly what was done before? No.
No. More or less. I mean, they really did go to town in terms of. Fortunate enough, I wouldn't be surprised if this starts getting shown on AMC since Shudder owns it or some other place. But I mean, I was more or less just really impressed by just keeping believability for the most part and just being very light, being just very laid back. And by light, I don't mean just take your time, whoop to do. And no, I mean they actually really were just making sure is like, are you paying attention to this part? Because here's what we're going to do next. We're going to do this part, and we're going to get you. And I mean, there's definitely some Easter eggs in there, but they're not like Haunting of Hill House where you've seen it enough times you'll be able to find it. God, I'm dying here. So I really did dig. What's your take on the? I want to say just how it ends.
The entire trilogy?
No. Part 2. Sorry.
Oh, part 2. So I actually really love the ending of part 2, where the big bad guy shows up and tells people basically that house is a gateway to hell, and that they need to have them select someone who goes back out into the world. Although I'm assuming he is a ghost or undead of some type, but so it was the blonde woman who was the tearful, frightened survivor who could barely put it together, and her face is messed up from some kind of injury. But there's this brief moment near the end that I really liked, and it's another simple edit where she's sitting, looking shell-shocked after being interviewed, and someone walks in front of the camera, and for a brief second, her face changes, like she's more disfigured and bloody, but she has this really ghoulish, evil smile because she knows she's gonna.
I'll have to rewatch it, but I do recall just there was a blink and a miss, and it's like, whoa, okay.
It was pretty brief, but it's like she's in on the fact that she's the one luring more people into hell.
She's the one.
And then then she goes back, to looking normal again. Well, normal as far as how she looked earlier in the film, but I thought that was a nice touch, and it was very creepy.
Well, and it's definitely comfortable with itself. I don't ever feel like they were rushed for time. They're just like, okay, we got a limited budget. Here's where let's go into the most, because this is what's going to make this movie be seen, be liked, be sold. And I was definitely like, okay, it's its own deal. I think that's just the right kind of playing it safe. Be a little edgy, be a little different, and be a different kind of different, if that makes sense. Instead of, let's repeat it, or let's be so different that it's related in name only. It's like, okay. So it's about 8 years since the last one, and then we cut to part 3, which definitely looks a little more on budget as the first one. Has some stock footage of the earlier one that matches up well, and then they dare to basically just introduce a few other didn't see that coming kind of things. The ending for that one really took me aback. It's like, wow, okay. Anyone else, if they had done that, would have been pretty lame. But this one, it was confident and went for it.
So maybe it's just like the type of person I am and the type of horror movies I like. I wish they had gone for a completely pessimistic ending. Evil wins and just a whole bunch of people get sucked into hell. Like, honestly, that's what I wanted to see, and I wanted to see more of hell. But on the other hand, I get that if it's a small budget, they can't really show that and do it justice. They have to leave it to
They kind of are in hell, but it's kind of a, I know what you mean. It looks like our hell. It just means, oh, I can't leave the house.
Yeah, it's. I know there's that one scene near the end where like the wall opens up and you see this red light coming out, so I take it that's the lake of fire that's referenced. But it's like I kind of want to see more of what's happening there. Instead, the guy who ends up I can't remember the guy's name. It's one of those things I can't remember the character names most of the time, but he was the rich guy who bought the house to turn it into.
That was interesting too. He's like, and he's the one most affected. He's like, wow, money can't buy this, because what do I buy? Freedom?
Yeah, and it turns out he's actually an angel. So it's like,
he's already ungrateful as it is, and just to see him just dumbstruck, is like, I can't do anything. I'm so used to being in control. Everything. I can't do anything. Actors were just as funny as the first one in this. They really were having a ball. It's like, this is their final day out, so it's just, you really got a sense that they more or less kind of just wanted to be even more just out of their minds, ape shit as the last foolish crew. And it's only like a few years after the last one, but it's, many years, like 9 years later after part 1, and it does it in a way where it's like, it doesn't scream cliche, Friday the 13th, you idiot, hate you, but no, it pretty much just goes with the wind. And once again, just my favorite kind of way to do things. Don't try and be better, just be yourself. Just, this is what I'm feeling, this is what we're gonna do, boom. And I really don't ask for much, and that I thought it really delivered.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, I'm normally not a huge fan of found footage type movies, but I feel like this one did a really great job in that format. Got a lot of mileage out of the resources they had, even though it clearly wasn't a big budget series at all.
That's really true, because I mean, there's never a moment where I feel like just running out of gas. It's just like, okay, we're gonna get this done, here's how we're gonna get it done. And for them to even just dare to just say, by the way, the movie's not even over yet, I didn't feel like there was much padding, except in like maybe 2 scenes briefly at the start, but I'd rather it be at the start rather than throughout the rest of the movie, and it's already done everything it needed to do. So I mean, I think everyone's going to get their bang for the buck, because again, Erica and I not found footage people. I know many are, but not our cup of tea. But that's okay. That's what makes it really stand out. Is it's really just pleasant and freaky and kind of laid back. Just very, if you will, just all about, okay, well, everything's been done, so we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and don't like it, get out. More or less, they really were just, it didn't feel like they just had to pick everybody's brain of every movie they've ever loved. It's like, okay, I've seen some movies be very successful doing this kind of thing, just, and that I do have to hand it off to him for just deciding, it might make better sense to just, I can't speak today. Basically, more or less, just focus on. I cannot speak today. But basically, they are. It adds a lot to the haunted house genre by just deciding if we're gonna do anything, it should be just, again, keep having them go around and film, and don't try and do too much than can be done. Just, you never get feel a moment that whatever they're about to do, they're just not going to be able to pull it off. They're going to try too hard. It's going to be a bunch of, and you just don't have any of those pre-misconceptions, because there's just nothing to go on that would give you the misconception. True. You don't have any you don't have any other moment where you're just like, oh, please, and I do have to hand it to them. I really do feel like for what they had, it's not even just that it was limited or anything. It's like they knew exactly what they were going to do, and how they were going to attempt it next, and to actually just bother to gain your believability, and then the rest was on you to continue just going, oh, holy shit. And compared to most movies that use found footage, they don't just do what they did in the 80s, where that's literally the entire chunk of the first part of the movie. Is like, no, they just cut in and out. And I do have to respect them for just deciding this is where we know our interests, we know our audience, we know what we're gonna do. So for now, let's just, if anything, just go into just a very uncanny, just what everyone's done with mockumentaries, but let's do it serious and let's pull it off. And the actors are all unknowns, maybe semi-known, but that's also the beauty of it. You're going to end up wanting to check anything that they or the filmmakers do next, because they're like you or us. They have their limit. They've been ripped off enough times. They're not going to put up with it. You need that attention. You need this extra detail, and for them to just decide, okay, we've been for the ringer. We only get this one chance, so let's just take it off. I really was even more intrigued by them deciding to, for better or worse, just have the house. The house is already a character, so don't even just worry about showing more of it. We're in it. We're in the thick of it. So I do have to, again, my tip of my hat goes to them. That was cool. If you had to rank these up to other indie terror films, where would you rank them?
That's a tough question.
Yes, we have many tough
There's
questions.
been like a few other. I would say that these are better than the Paranormal Activity series.
Oh yes,
I
know.
I
Like
the
this, I'm
first
saying.
2 or 3, and then they just went really downhill with that. And also, I found with Paranormal Activity that while it was a ton of fun in the theater, they just haven't held up as well. They just don't seem as scary as they did at the time.
Yeah, I know many of them. I couldn't get into those, and I know many were freaked out by just the simplest motions. I get it. I understand. We all have our tipping point. We all have our thing that just gets under our skin. There's even some stuff I just can't watch, and it's not because it's a bad movie. It's just because it literally gets under your skin, and you're like, ooh, eeh. I felt that.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
painful.
yeah.
I felt that toenail being clipped away. Ooh.
Yeah.
More or less, they really do their damnedest to also just kind of. They really go back and forth to the people being interviewed at the start in part 1, and especially here in parts of part 3, and that's also a winning point because oh, okay, whatever the outcome, nothing good came out of this. So that just prepares me for more disappointment, and I welcome it because it's just common in these kinds of movies. But I also know I want to know what happened. I want to know. That invites the viewer to go into journalist mode, just like these amateurs journalists.
Yeah.
And I mean, all the kudos to you when you can do something like that, because I mean, some people will just, if it's a different audience, will just automatically say, don't care, tell me about it later. And with this, you pretty much know, okay, well, no, you should stick around because something bad definitely happened here. Let's find out what happened by the end of the movie. I also gotta just hand it to just all the actors were really good. I mean, they really were, because I don't think they'll ever be name actors, let alone more than just like a brief, maybe a credited but non-speaking role on TV. That might be where they go the most. That's not saying that their talent is restricted or bad. I'm just saying, their agent and representation and where they are popularity wise might, determine that. So I really dug how just everyone plays off each other. And so you're just waiting for someone to say something else, either appropriate or inappropriate. It's that rare moment is like, okay, whatever anyone says, I'm cool with. Because I'm just looking for a character study half the time when I'm not paying attention to, just, I think that statue moved. And it really helps also that they really do have to make use of every minute. They know that all of us have our something that makes us tick, and so they're not gonna bore us. They're not gonna force us to watch something we don't want to watch. So I mean, they did a good job of also just kind of, lack of a better word, just really making sure that they gave everyone enough to do. Some people are just asking all the questions. The other guy is just saying, "Oh, hold up, my camera's fogged up" or some shit. And I thought that was good. And that just braces us for the next disappointment they face. People looking for something non-graphic, you're in luck. People wanting just haunted house completists, you're in luck. People wanting, let's just say anyone wanting just kind of old school tribute. I mean, hell, even if you like an Amityville kind of thing, you'll like this. But I mean, if you want something kind of more just showing that horror needs to restructure its whole face, instead of rely on just free bigwigs to carry it out and make the genre money. It's like, no, there's this is definitely going to be inspiring for independent filmmakers to watch. It's also going to be, again, great for mainstream people who want something different from the big scale venues they're seeing. And that just allows, again, different change ups, more open mindedness, and it's like, okay, fine, I'll bite. Anything else you want to discuss that has not been brought up?
I think we've kind of covered everything
Yeah,
that I can think of anyway.
I got nothing. It's not that we're creatively in denial, guys. It's that it really is that simple a film franchise. If I had to rank them, part 1, 4 out of 5. Part 3, not as canny, but I'll still give that a 4. And then part 2, 3.5 out of 5. Still top made for internet horror of the year for its respective year. It's gonna vary by audience. So I mean, that's what happens. That what happens.
The 5-point system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd probably might be a little different with mine. I'd probably put the first one at the top.
Oh yeah.
Followed closely by the second one, even though there were a few. I feel like more like visual flaws with the second one. Maybe it was a budgetary thing, but sometimes the look was just a little off. And then I'd probably put 3 at the bottom, but it wasn't a bad movie by any means.
Right,
I just
no.
would have liked a more cynical ending.
Well, exactly. And the endings really do make these movies. They really do just make you say, how could I not seen that coming? You know, and it really is a good kind of just way to just kind of invite the viewer to just, I wouldn't say bullshit, just you're allowing them to really navigate. And I mean, because when you're first looking at it first, it's like, you're thinking about it like with any indie films, like how many times am I going to have to look at my watch before this is over?
Right.
And with this one, I don't think I ever looked at my watch even once. So it's just like, okay, dynamite. It wasn't just a pleasant surprise. It wasn't just that inertia flowing. It was also just, okay. So some serious thought was put into just what's making everyone tick. Why is this house even so fascinating? Why are we even talking about this damn place? And it's like, okay, no, there's more to it than that. It's the fact that it's everything that you don't want in a house, but it's also, you know, a different kind of hell, a different kind of house. So it was just like, okay, perfect. And I do have to hand it to him for just deciding, you know, instead of just even every kind of cheap scare, let's just have, you know, just the simplest thing, like I'm hearing noises, and then everyone's like, you hear that? But they don't do it in such a way where you're just stalling, and or do you feel like the movie itself is stalling? It's like, oh my god, come on. And they really go for it. They make sure that everybody is kind of just really just losing their mind and losing their shit for that instance. Does a good job of also having you know, the characters acknowledge the camera. Oh shit, I'm losing battery. You know, and having a record symbol on. Very simple stuff that really does make a difference to the whole approach. You can tell, you already know some thought was put into it. What do I see? What does the camera see? What does the character's camera see? And so just all that kind of just little small details that they make the movie. They really do.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. And any closing thoughts from you, Erica?
No?
No? Okay. Thank you ever so much for joining, and where can we find anytime? Erica can be found on My Horrific Life, Blogspot, and podcasts. And thanks for owning this.
Thank you.
Anytime. So yes, if you want to see these can all be rented on Amazon Prime. They can all be seen with a Shudder account. I prefer you either get a copy or do it with somebody else, but if you're like most of the world and you just want to be subscribed to everything, go for it. Or do a free trial. It doesn't matter. Just see these. You will not regret them. Especially if you're a hardcore horror buff and you just want to see not just something different, but just something that's kind of changing the game in a semi-indie but mainstream looking way, if that makes sense. Is like, okay, most people like to do that with only just like action and gangster movies and other shit. And it's like, okay, but with horror, this is really cool. And it's like, not everything has to be Charles Band, or you got killer dolls and everything,
True.
And it's like with this, they decided, okay, famous actors, not an option. Famous locations, special effects, not an option. What do we have? We have a few digital people who know their shit. We have a unusual house that looks bizarre. Let's see how many ways we can show characters talking about it and running around inside it. And you get the adrenaline and the addiction flowing through them, so you kind of can't fault them for their stupidity. They're addicted. So you just want to see is like, okay. And none of them are douchebags to each other. That's also something I gotta applaud them for. When's the last horror movie you saw where there wasn't a single douchebag who got everybody killed?
That's true. Like there were like a couple annoying characters, but they weren't.
Oh yeah.
They weren't really. I never at any point did I feel like, oh, they deserve to die because they were so terrible.
Yeah. They were kind of just more of a. If you guys just want to see a movie where it shows you how conflict can be born more out of just everybody just becoming uneasy with what they're feeling and constantly even saying other things like, oh, I'm so done, let me out. It's like, okay, cool. So somebody wants to leave but can't for whatever reason. And they do a good job. I mean, literally anyone making a movie, now don't even spend a minute on special effects. Spend it all on just mood, suspense, freakiness building. It can be done. And anyone who doesn't like this genre, watch it anyway. You'll like it.
True. I thought you were going to say if they don't like this genre, they can just suck it.
Oh, I wish I was that mean, but no.
Yeah. It's just me who's that mean.
All right, so awesome sauce, and Godspeed.
Likewise.
Anytime. Woo!
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a Jack